You're watching the Dallas Cowboys Report. I am your host, Tom Downey. Let's discuss Amari Cooper and some potential panic that could go on around the Cowboys' number one wide receiver. Will he miss the start of training camp? I'm going to give this one 2 stars. Now, I'm not panicking yet, but this does need to be discussed. Now, Cooper's been out of OTAs and minicamp, dealing with what Ian Rapoport termed ankle irritation. Now, that seems very vague, and it very much is. The report from Rapoport was that Cooper might not be ready for the start of training camp and could actually open up camp on the PUP list, which would not be a disastrous outcome, but it's also far from ideal. Now, as a reminder, Cooper had ankle surgery after this year's past season ended, and there's been some lack of clarity is the phrase I should use there about if it is directly related to this or not. Now, the Cowboys are going to be cautious, and Rapoport mentioned the Cowboys could be concerned about Cooper being in the ideal shape and making sure he's able to stay in great shape so he does not aggravate that ankle issue further. This is not the first time either that Cooper has dealt with ankle issues. It's been a rather relatively common concern across his NFL career. Now, Rapoport said Cooper was 2 to 3 weeks away from being able to run. Well, training camp is still 6 weeks away. So there's plenty of time for Cooper to get back to the guy we all know and love to see dominate Eagles corners. So what I'm saying is, it's not worth panicking over right now. We should monitor this. If we get to August, early or mid, and Cooper's not out there yet, it's a bit of a red flag. But here at the beginning of June, not a major concern. Of course, he has been at the facility plenty, so you're not too concerned about it from that end. Again, I mentioned the injury history for Cooper. And despite all of these issues, plantar fasciitis in 2015 and 2019, left ankle sprains in 2017, had the thigh and knee late in the 2019 season, and then, of course, had the right ankle surgery this past offseason. Despite all of those injuries, Cooper's always put up really good seasons. Last year, with a rotating crop at points of quarterbacks that were not nearly as good as Dak Prescott, 130 targets, 92 receptions, well over 1,000 yards, just the 5 scores, but the red zone offense wasn't great last season for the Cowboys. So I'm not worried about Cooper not having camp. Like, even if he misses parts of it, I'm not worried there as long as he's healthy for week 1 because we've seen him battle through injury before and play great. And on the bright side, too, the Cowboys are in a really great shape at receiver overall. Of course, there's Amari Cooper. We can argue Lamb versus Gallup, wide receiver 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, whatever you want there. Doesn't really matter. If you don't have Cooper for a game and you still got Gallup and Lamb, guess what? It's still a really good 1-2 punch at the wide receiver position. So I'm not freaking out quite yet about Amari Cooper. This is definitely something worth monitoring. Now, with minicamp and OTAs over, I doubt we're going to hear all that much about Cooper and where he's at, unless it's bad or really good, until we get closer to training camp. Again, late July out in Oxnard. So for the time being, I'm not panicking. I'm monitoring, but my panic level is very low, more in the 2 to 3 range. But what do you guys think? Get your votes in for me in the comments section. I want you guys to rate your panic level over Amari Cooper using a scale of 1 to 10, 1 on the low end, 10 on the high. An unexpected trade rumor now for the Dallas Cowboys. How about dealing for Xavien Howard? 1 star, and that's frankly me being fairly generous, but there was a report from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, who says it's a well-known secret, which isn't really much of a secret, worst-kept secret, probably the phrase there, that Howard wants a new contract in Miami, coming off the absurd year that he has. And then the real kind of bombshell he mentioned in this article was that there was, quote, buzz league-wide that Dallas could make a play for Howard, although that buzz was before the Cowboys went all in on defense in the draft and added multiple corners in the offseason. Now, purely from a talent perspective, oh man, Xavien Howard was unbelievably good last year. Now, he was targeted a ton, 101 targets this past year. That's why he allowed 719 yards, 4 scores. It's not a coincidence, by the way, that the targets went up when he was opposite Byron Jones. There's a definite causation and correlation there. But 10 interceptions, 20 pass breakups, I think I speak for every single Cowboys fan in existence in ever. I would love to have even half of that level of ball production. The problem is multiple-fold here, beginning with the salary cap and the money side of it. The Cowboys weren't even close to paying Byron Jones what he got from the Miami Dolphins, $16.5 million. Xavien Howard right now is actually the 6th highest paid corner. If you trade for him, he's going to want a new and expensive contract. Probably something online or in line with more Marlon Humphrey. And with the salary cap skyrocketing at Howard's age, he could probably command $20 million per year relatively easily. So from a money perspective, for an organization that does not like to pay cornerbacks big-time money right now, or pay any non-homegrown player big-time money, I'm not really sure how that all gets fit together. And then, of course, there's this other note that they drafted Kelvin Joseph and Deshaun Wright in this year's NFL draft. They invested top 100 picks into those guys. So because of what they've invested already and the money involved plus the draft pick costs, I'd love it, but unless Kelvin Joseph is bad, I don't really see it happening right now. But regardless, get your votes in for me. What is the percent chance that you think the Cowboys go out and trade for Xavien Howard? I can't wait to see your answers. Producer Brett says 0, but it's probably closer to like 5% or less. Either way, get your votes in. Let's talk defensive line now. How about, look at this, what year is it? Signing Damon Harrison. 1 star. I'm a little bit surprised we're here, but, you know, what is dead will never die or whatever. Floated out by the Dallas Morning News, and I get it, right? You bring in Damon Harrison. Fatty's only lives forever. He gets to help the run defense, mentor Quentin Bahana, the last bastion of Fatty's only in existence right now on this Dallas Cowboys roster. But it's the 1 star, and kind of like Xavien Howard, probably me being generous from that perspective. The Cowboys didn't show much interest last season, despite Harrison himself having interest because, you know, he wants to play football, right? He'd be cheap. I think you get him for about the vet minimum at this point, and I get the idea of him mentoring Quentin Bahana. Unfortunately, I think the Cowboys have seen what other NFL teams have seen. Yes, 2020 was a weird year, but there is a trend. 2018, 2019, 2020. You see the stats on screen. That is regression through and through. He is not the guy that he was back in his prime. Now, I've got no problem adding cheap veteran depth with little to no guaranteed money. But the Cowboys, along with the rest of the NFL, want to see what their new players can do. And there is a numbers crunch on the defensive line. Neville Gallimore is making this team. Osa Odigizua is making this team. Brett Urban, I think, is making this team with the way it's going to structure. I think it's a guarantee. That's 3 guys right there. I'd bet one of Tristan Hill or Carlos Watkins makes the team. And if the whole purpose is to bring in Harrison to mentor Quentin Bahana, isn't Bahana going to make the team as well? That's already 5 guys. I don't see them carrying 6 interior defense linemen. Now, I could be wrong there, but if there's injuries, well, that does start to change things at least a little bit. So, sure, cheap 1-year deal, let them fight for a roster spot. I'm not going to get my hopes up because that's not how the Cowboys have typically operated. Now what I want you guys to do is name a free agent who you want to sign. Is it Snacks Harrison? Is it one of the other constant players linked to the Cowboys? I don't know. Get your votes in for me right now. Now, Cowboys training camp is just around the corner, and Fanatics have just released some brand new Cowboys training camp hats. Now, we've acknowledged this before, but in the past, sometimes the hats aren't very good. I like these, though. They're simple, and they look good as well. They've got them in the normal gray and blue style, all black, which I always appreciate because I think black works pretty well for a hat, the all-white version, and if you want to go a little bit different, they've got the bucket hat as well, and even Cowboys visors. So go check out chatsports.com/CowboysCamp. Link there is right at the bottom of your screen. It will also be in the comment section and in the description. Now, they got plenty of styles and fits and colors and all that stuff, so go check out what you want right now. chatsports.com/CowboysHat. Let's talk Tristan Hill now. Is the former second-round pick on the roster bubble, floated out there by Blogging the Boys first, and also Dallas Morning News more recently. but I'm giving this one 2 stars. I do think there is a very real possibility that Hill is fighting for a roster spot right now. He was playing better in his second year. Make no mistake about that. He was a better player than year 1, also not saying that much. But unfortunately for Hill, there is the unfortunate reality of this. The NFL is not necessarily a meritocracy. And even if it were, not like Hill's played that great. 2020, 11 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. There is pass rushing ability and value and all of those things. The pressure rate went up, but with the way the roster is constructed and with the recent additions by a new regime on that side of the ball, I think it's a good question. So get your votes in for me. Do you think Tristan Hill will end up making the team? Type in Y for yes, he will, or type in N for no, he won't. Make your predictions for me in the comments section. Now, I lean towards yes. I think that Hill will end up making it. However, it is not a guarantee. We'll get into some other notes here more in depth in a second, but I want to remind everybody of this. Tristan Hill his torn ACL recovery is critical. That's a big deal. If Tristan Hill is slow to recover, or maybe more importantly, isn't the same guy coming off of it, the Cowboys can move on. His contract is not that guaranteed. They'd save just under $1 million, and there are other options on the defensive line. The Cowboys, if they so choose, with a new defensive coordinator and a new defensive line coach, for the 3rd time in as many years in Tristan Hill's career with the Cowboys, the guy who wanted to take him so badly long gone, well, that's a difficult question to answer. So for now, I go with the experience on the defensive line depth chart, right? I go with Neville Gallimore, Tristan Hill, Brent Urban as that defensive end, defensive tackle hybrid there. But the young guys, Osa Odigizua, Quinton Bahana, I would not be that surprised if Odigizua, part of the new regime in place right now, beats out Tristan Hill early this year for snaps in a role. I think that actually might be the favorite outcome here. And there's also Carlos Watkins on this team. Now, Watkins was brought in to fight for a roster spot. And if Odigizua, Urban, Gallimore, and maybe Quinton Bahana as the run stopper are all roster locks, it might be Watkins versus Hill for that last spot unless Tristan Hill drastically improves again. Now, 2019, look, in a pretty healthy season, 121 snaps, wasn't remotely impactful enough. Now, he was always more of a developmental, we have to see how he grows throughout his NFL career type of player. But unfortunately for Hill, when you need development time and you blow out your knee in your second year, you lose a lot of critical snaps and opportunities. So because of where Hill is at in his growth, there are major question marks right now. Training camp in the preseason is pivotal for Hill this year. If he can't get on the field, if he can't impress, his future with the Cowboys long term is fairly murky. Now, we will keep you guys covered on everything going on around America's team throughout the offseason, training camp, preseason, and of course the actual games as well. So hit that big red button and subscribe. The link is right there at the bottom of your screen. It's youtube.com/Cowboys TV. Don't miss out on anything going on around America's team. Some news items I wanted to get to here, kind of rapid fire. Dak Prescott got a second massive contract, this time from the Jordan brand, as he leaves Adidas, flips over to Jordan. Get ready for the comeback commercials that Nike and Jordan have done so well in recent years. Side note on a former Cowboys player, Sean Lee has reportedly interviewed for a CBS analyst role. Could he follow the path of Tony Romo? Maybe. I still want to find Sean Lee a coaching role on the staff in the not-too-distant future. More minor but worth mentioning, Micah Parsons, Kelvin Joseph have both signed their rookie contracts. That leaves just the 3 third-round picks, Osa Odigizua, Chauncey Golston, and also Nashawn Wright as the only 3 left to sign, and I'm sure they'll do so in the very near future. And then finally, the Cowboys preseason schedule with dates and times have been announced. The Steelers in the Hall of Fame game, 8 p.m. Eastern on August 5th. At the Arizona Cardinals about a week later, 10 p.m. Eastern, a late night game. Home against the Houston Texans. We get to see Davis Mills. Yay, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then wrapping up the preseason slate, 4 games this year for the Cowboys, with cuts coming after each one, minus the Steelers game, against the Jaguars. Will Tim Tebow still be on the team? Probably. We'll find out, though, for sure.